Putin's rumoured girlfriend.
Alina
Kabaeva.
Vladimir Putin's rumored girlfriend.
Everyone talks about Putin, the president. But behind closed doors, beyond the cameras and cold diplomacy, lives a man with secrets no biography dares to mention. They're not in the official records, but their influence quietly echoes through luxury, the power, and the silence.
Russia's notoriously secretive president, Vladimir Putin, has kept his personal life under wraps for years, but the curtains have now been pulled back.
The mystery begins not in Moscow, but in the capital of the former Uzbek SSR. A child born in 1983. Her father, a professional football player with Muslim Tatar roots. Her mother, a strong-willed Russian who moved the family from town to town, following opportunity and chasing dreams. A nomadic upbringing filled with discipline, aspiration, and something more. The daughter was different, ambitious, obsessed, gifted. By the age of 3, she had already started training in rhythmic gymnastics, and before she hit her teenage years, the whispers had started.
In 2015, they welcomed their first son, Ivan, in Switzerland, followed by Vladimir Putin Jr., born in Moscow in 2019. The boys lead an isolated life at Putin's heavily guarded mansion in Valdai National Park, located northwest of Moscow.
Whispers about the girl who could bend physics with her spine, who danced like a ripple in silk, who won like it was her birthright. Europe watched in awe as this teenager from Moscow stunned the judges at the European Championships. That win was no fluke. She returned in 2003 and 2004, and each time added gold to her name like it was a second skin. By now, she wasn't just a gymnast, she was a sensation. But her wins weren't free from controversy. In 2001, she was slapped with a doping scandal that momentarily dimmed her shine. The price was steep: disqualification, stripped medals, and global disgrace. But she returned. And that's when the story gets interesting.
Last week, stepping out at a Moscow gymnastics event, rallying the nation as it slips to international isolation.
If competitions will be held only in Russia, then on the contrary, the gymnastics will be better, more spectacular.
After her athletic career began to cool, she didn't fade like most stars. Instead, she pivoted to politics. In 2007, this former gymnast, now draped in power suits instead of leotards, was elected to the Russian State Duma under the United Russia Party. For 7 years, she sat among lawmakers, spoke like them, voted like them. But unlike the rest, she didn't simply retire when her term ended in 2014. She ascended.
Putin vigorously denied the story, and hours later, publishers shut the paper down. Kabaeva is a former Russian Vogue cover model and Olympic gold medalist in rhythmic gymnastics, once called Russia's most flexible woman. In the early 2000s, she was suspended from competition after allegedly testing positive for a banned substance.
Chairwoman of the National Media Group, Russia's largest media conglomerate. A position that brought with it not just power, but exposure and money, a lot of it. Reports suggest her annual earnings hovered around $12 million. But here's where the puzzle pieces start to click. How does a retired gymnast with no journalism or media background land the top job in a state-run media empire? How does a woman whose only real public service was in the Duma suddenly command the direction of the entire nation's televised narrative?
A Change.org petition to have her expelled from that country last month has received more than 73,000 signatures. Over the weekend, the former gymnast made a rare public appearance at a gymnastics exhibition in Moscow.
Unless she wasn't just a media executive, unless she wasn't just a politician, unless she had access to one man. You see, this woman, this enigma, has often been called Russia's most mysterious figure. Prestigious Russian fashion magazines have dubbed her the nation's secret, a woman of influence wrapped in silk, shadow, and silence. Her name? Alina Kabaeva. Yes, that Kabaeva, the rhythmic gymnast, the Duma deputy, the media queen. But behind those titles, there's one more. One unconfirmed, unspoken, and infinitely more controversial. The alleged longtime companion of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Let's pause there.
But a new investigation has revealed intimate details about his 2 secret sons. According to a report by a Russian investigative organization called the Dossier Center, Putin shares 2 sons with former Olympic gymnast Alina Kabaeva.
You won't find photos of the two smiling together at galas. You won't find official Kremlin statements acknowledging their connection. And if you dig too deep, you might find yourself out of a job. In 2008, when the Moskovsky correspondent dared to report that Putin had divorced his wife and secretly married Kabaeva, the publication was swiftly shut down. A coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe not. Officially, Putin divorced his wife Lyudmila in 2014, citing the strains of public life. But the timing was curious. That same year, Kabaeva left the Duma and moved deeper into the media. She grew quieter, more elusive, but the rumors only grew louder.
An investigative report finds Putin secretly had 2 sons with Russia's Olympic gold medal winning gymnast Alina Kabaeva. The boys, Ivan and Vladimir Jr., reportedly live secluded lives in luxury and are fond of Disney cartoons, which reportedly infuriates Putin. Until now, the Kremlin has denied the relationship with Kabaeva, but the story reveals a side of the Russian leader few have ever seen.
There were whispers of children. In 2015, she reportedly gave birth to a child in Switzerland, a high-end clinic, VIP care. No father listed, no father leaked. Then in 2019, twin sons were allegedly born in Moscow at an elite maternity hospital. But again, no official confirmation, only whispers. Yet intelligence officials in the West began to raise eyebrows. Her name appeared in security briefings. Sanction lists were drafted. But still, governments hesitated. Why? Because sanctioning her would be crossing a line, a personal line, the line between politics and private fury. Some argued it would provoke Putin on a level no invasion, no embargo ever could.
US officials are taking direct aim at those in Russian President Vladimir Putin's inner circle with harsh sanctions. But one person has been spared so far: Putin's rumoured girlfriend.
Alina Kabaeva back in the news again. First romantically linked to President Putin more than a decade ago.
Still, not everyone held back. The United Kingdom became the first to formally sanction Alina Kabaeva, citing her financial benefit from ties to the Kremlin. Bank accounts frozen, entry denied. Her name now stood alongside oligarchs and military leaders. But it wasn't just about money. It was about her role in disseminating Kremlin propaganda through state-run media, all under her leadership at the National Media Group. In short, she helped shape Russia's voice to the world. But still, there's more. Unconfirmed reports claim she lives in palatial estates across Russia and Europe. In Switzerland, she allegedly resided in a secluded mansion near Lugano. In Russia, some claim she resides in a nuclear bunker tucked somewhere in Siberia. Far from war, far from spies, far from questions.
The two rarely, if ever, seen together. Their precise relationship, if any, unclear. But more than a decade of rumours, undimmed with time. Now, against the backdrop of wartime symbolism, calling on the country to support Putin's war.
Every family has a history of war, and we shouldn't forget about it.
Despite having no formal media background, Kabaeva heads a conglomerate that controls most state-run outlets. How? That question has no answer, only speculation. One theory is that Putin's inner circle uses her as a proxy, giving her power, shielding her, and letting her operate as both ally and alibi. Some insiders say she even lives in a nuclear bunker in Siberia, a ghost at the center of Russia's most sensitive inner sanctums. Others believe she's the real First Lady, just not in public. Alina doesn't do public life like most celebrities. She's not on TikTok. She doesn't flood Instagram with selfies. Instead, she chooses her moments carefully. She appeared on the cover of Vogue Russia in 2011, performed at the Olympics, danced on stage in a surprise musical debut. When she moves, it's deliberate. When she disappears, it's deafening. She is a beauty wrapped in mystery, elegance cloaked in secrecy. And whether or not the love story is real, she's woven into the tapestry of Putin's rule. Photos of her are rare. Public appearances are carefully staged. And each time she does appear, The world scrutinizes her fingers for wedding rings, her clothes for signs of pregnancy, her eyes for confirmation. Vladimir Putin has always been a master of narrative, hard, stoic, untouchable. But behind every strongman is a secret, and this one may be his most dangerous yet. His link to Alina isn't just about romance, it's about control. While Russia wages war abroad, back home a different kind of battlefield exists. One of rumor, silence, luxury, and love. She's not just a gymnast, she's not just a mistress. She may very well be the most powerful woman in Russia.
Tonight, no sanctions on an alleged secret romance, raising eyebrows. More scrutiny on the lack of financial punishments against Vladimir Putin's rumored girlfriend, Alina Kabaeva.
In 2022, she appeared on Russian television wearing a striking ring on her right hand. Engagement rumors ignited again. Kremlin's silence followed, as always. Meanwhile, her wealth continues to balloon. Her media empire remains untouched. Her past as a world-class athlete continues to grant her goodwill. But those who track Kremlin affairs know Kabaeva isn't just a former gymnast. She's something else entirely, a symbol.
Alina Polyakova, President and CEO of the Center for European Policy Analysis. She has done extensive reporting on Putin and his inner circle. So, Alina, I'm glad to have you back. You know, we just played that sound a moment ago from Putin's alleged girlfriend, mother of multiple of his children, and I want to play it again.
She's the woman tied, whether fiction or fact, to one of the most powerful and controversial men on the planet. A woman whose silence speaks louder than interviews, whose presence at events sparks more headlines than policy shifts. She's never confirmed a relationship. Putin has never addressed her by name, yet Russian insiders call their bond an open secret. So why is this story forbidden?
Have any comment on why you would refrain from sanctioning someone arguably close to Putin?
Well, I would remind you we're continuing to review sanctions. No one is safe from our sanctions.
Because in Russia, personal life is sacred, especially Putin's. Digging into the emotional, familial corners of his world is seen as a betrayal, a red line not to be crossed by journalists, diplomats, or even presidents. But curiosity is louder than censorship. In 2022, a global petition was launched demanding that Kabaeva be expelled from Switzerland, where she was reportedly living in luxurious exile. It gathered over 75,000 signatures. It didn't work. She stayed. Or maybe she moved. No one really knows. That's the thing with shadows. They move when you're not looking.
Kabaeva will hold a post which oversees 3 television channels, 2 newspapers, and a radio station. Despite being one of the most decorated athletes in the history of rhythmic gymnastics, Kabaeva is perhaps best known for being voted into the Russian parliament at age 24.
To this day, the West debates her role. Is she simply a loyalist placed in a powerful position to control media narratives? Is she a pawn or the queen behind the curtain? Or is she something much more personal, a partner, a mother to secret heirs, a silent strategist in Putin's long chess game? What we do know is this. Alina Kabaeva doesn't speak unless she wants to. She doesn't appear unless the Kremlin allows it. And if she truly is the mother of Putin's children, she holds power that no election, no military, no oligarch could ever match. She represents the one soft spot in an otherwise steel-wrapped regime. And that is what makes her dangerous. A forbidden name, a forbidden story. Yet, here we are. Still asking, still wondering, still trying to shine a light on a shadow that refuses to sit still. Whatever truth lies behind closed Kremlin doors, one thing is certain, this story isn't over. Not for her, not for him, and definitely not for a world still obsessed with the man called Putin. Subscribe now so you don't miss what unravels next.